And now, the moment you've all been waiting for, and your home planet favorites, Slipspace!
Yeah, go Slipspace!
Thanks, buddy!
Okay, so I'm pretty sure no one gives a shit about Grifball at this point in time, but I have to be honest, I checked it out and it wasn't that bad. What with Season 15 through 17, and then RVB 0 not exactly being what I was hoping for, I started to look around at the other Red vs. Blue Machinima stuff, and I found Team Slipspace, a Grifball Story, and it wasn't bad. Like I said in my last video, I like to take stuff that's deemed non-canon if I can, and consider it canon to Red vs. Blue.
And now that my editing software's not eating itself from the inside out, I'm gonna do that.
Not only do I think Team Slipspace, a Grifball Story, could be canon to Red vs. Blue, but I also feel like the Grifball teams are actually the Red and Blue bases after they were taken over by the chairman and the UNSC after the director was deemed a criminal in Season 6. They could have been started before he was deemed a criminal, but I think around that time he was being investigated at least.
The Grifball cameo at the beginning of Season 10 was said by Bernie Burns to be inaccurate, and to that he said, "Fuck it." So I think they were just using that scene as a non-canon way of opening the season in an entertaining way. And we know that scene was inaccurate
because the war ended in 2553, and it says on the internet that the game Grifball was invented 2554, a year after the war ended. So let's say after the war, the Red and Blue bases started to transition into Grifball teams. The idea would be that the Red and Blue bases were made into Grifball teams to soothe the director's crimes away, because the Red and Blue bases were victims of his, being made fodder for the freelancers. Chairman tries to utilize them as publicity and make money off of Grifball. It's not the first time he mixed military and business, or politics and business. That's basically the whole concept of what he did on Chorus. The Grifball teams have swords and hammers because Chairman owns Charon, who steals alien tech. And so that's where they got the alien tech. Obviously not the same type of sword that Tucker has, but we know that elites do have swords. Also, a clue that Charon's connected to them, Freelancer was in charge of the Reds and Blues, and the Blues were the main team. Charon takes control of the Red and Blue bases and makes Grifball, and then the Reds are the main team. Just like we saw in the Triplets episodes, the Blue teams were based off of Freelancers, the Red team was based off of Charon soldiers. The interesting thing is, though, the aliens were on the Blue team, which lines up with Fight the Good Fight, where the Blues were said to be alien sympathizers.
Each miniseries could be another scenario presented to them like the Red and Blue bases. The first one, they go up against aliens. The second one, they have a guy who throws grenades in the middle of the game. The third one, they deal with a criminal who can't be taken out of his cage during the game. The next one, they got to deal with negotiating with their agents through flawed and insane logic. And then the last one, they got to deal with Charon weapons.
Then there's the inclusion of Pounder McJones, which is voiced by Gavin. And he also played Jones in Season 6, aka Joe Ennis. Pounder is obviously a fake name. Pounder McJones could be Joe Ennis, aka Jones. In the Grifball show, he was killed by one of the aliens, but later we see that he survived. So he could have survived Caboose. It's hard to kill him. And that could be a little joke they added. What could be interesting is if Sarge is the one who invented the game in the first place for Chairman and the UNSC, without knowing the intent behind it. He's just trying to insult Griff. The courts look and work just like the Hollow Room Sarge had built in Season 7, and the court has the same design, and the ball turns people into Griff with holographic technology. Just like the Hollow Room was designed to create Griffs that could kill. Now in Season 4 is when Sarge first mentions Grifball, a joke to insult Griff. Then the war ends in 2553. Grifball starts in 2554, a few months before the ship crashes in Valhalla. Around Season 7 is when Sarge creates the Hollow Room. That's when they would get the design for their court. And by the time the show actually starts, it would have started after Revelations. Because they say in the miniseries expansion that the game has been going for 17 months, 2 seasons. And I know in Season 6 they end up deleting the Blues from the system, so therefore Command doesn't have any record on the Blues. But by that time, the red and blue bases would have already started creating Grifball teams. So I could easily see the commissioner talking to the blue team about, oh, well, I guess, you could just play for free. And they're like, that's bullshit. And he's like, that's the game, fellas, or something like that. So it's not too much of a continuity error. That's my way around it.
We also don't see the very early days of Grifball, so by the time we actually start seeing where they are in the show, Sarge could have worked his kinks out as we see his design being developed in Season 7.
Another interesting thing that could be in this show is the commissioner is Agent Michigan. They call him Mish, just like Washington is called Wash. And then Brash, the other agent, could be Agent Nebraska. It's just an interesting way to connect Project Freelancer to this. Maybe they were hired by the chairman just like Wash was in Season 7. Except they're hired to look over the red and blue bases during Grifball, not kill other people.
You killed a player.
Chairman would just hire them to manage the red and blue Grifball teams, and they'd get money out of it, because one's the commissioner and one is an agent. What could also be interesting is if when Griff joins the game in Double Agent at the end of the whole miniseries, if you don't count Game Changer, Griff is joining the game to get easy money, and that could be during Season 9 while Church is in the memory unit. Church does say Carolina rounded up the guys so that they could save him, so Griff could have joined Grifball and then Carolina came and got him before they saved Epsilon from the memory unit.
Other than making money off of the red and blue bases, I feel like there's an ulterior motive for the chairman or Charon while owning Grifball. The first miniseries introduces the aliens into the Grifball teams, and the last miniseries shows Charon tech be introduced to the Grifball game. After the Great War, letting the aliens join the Grifball teams would seem like an act of peace, bringing the two societies together, but it would also give them an opportunity to manipulate the public perception of the aliens, because the aliens are advertised very heavily as the good winning team, but then eventually they start losing, and that starts driving down prices and driving down investment in the alien teams, making it look bad. This could put things in Chairman's favor when he eventually tries to restart the war with the aliens, which is a dropped plot point that Miles tried to put in Season 13. It got cut, but you can kind of see it in the background still. Not only would they be able to study the aliens in this scenario, but they'd be able to test these Charon weapons on them when they're introduced into the game, which is the weapon they're eventually going to bank on if the war were to start up with the aliens again. To study the aliens, they would use the stupidest of the aliens, just as they use the stupidest of the humans in the red and blue bases. As a start.
One interesting thing I noticed is the aliens, as far as I can remember, are the only ones that respawn after dying.
That could be because they're letting the aliens use the time distortion technology that they got from the director after the director was arrested or went into hiding. Yes, I know Season 15 says the time travel from 1 through 5 didn't happen, but no one has ever stated that Wyoming doesn't have a time distortion unit. That's what I'm talking about. As we know, Tucker's sword is connected to the time distortion unit, according to Season 5. The sword was alien tech, that would make the time distortion unit alien tech. So if, by chance, the aliens have more of this, the chairman wants to be prepared, and so they're testing it on the aliens. Maybe the Charon weapons are designed to slowly disintegrate people so that they can't respawn like the time distortion unit allows them to. Everything's completely disintegrated.
Plus, they have an opportunity to test the time distortion technology, which I don't know if the chairman would do anything with that. I think it is possible that instead of actually going into time distortion and time travel study, he eventually just decides to use the energy from the time distortion unit to fix the power source problem in the metasuit, which is how I think he was able to make it so one AI could run all the armor abilities at once, just utilizing energy from the time distortion unit. Just like on Chorus, where they said that the Temple of Vision was basically a power source for all the other temples. So while Grifball ended up being a post-war game, it was secretly setting up the building blocks for a new war, which we know was obviously ended by the Reds and Blues. I know Team Slipspace may have been intended to be a non-canon miniseries just for fun, but I feel like it could be connected to the overall story. And if further developed, could be pretty cool.